This is Amy Chan from CakeDecoratingSchool.com, and if you like cake decorating, you're in the right place. Thanks for checking out one of our past live sessions. If you had fun and enjoyed it, we'll hope you tune in for one of our future lives. And remember, if you're one of our paid members, you can watch these and all the rest of them anytime on your platform. Valentine's Day is this weekend. I thought it would be a good excuse to work on piping some hearts. So I did a couple little designs. We'll probably do 3 or 4 total and just cover some different basic techniques. It's a little hard to see. I'm going to try and get it at an angle so you can see it, but I coated this one in sugar. So some with a little less buttercream, some with a little more, but all good excuses to pipe those hearts. I'm going to let Tom turn off the chat log and we will get started. All right, so we're going to talk about piping hearts in buttercream, right? And I'm going to use number 12 and also a number 3 to do that. And when I do it, it's a lot like when I'm piping a shell, except I'm going to pipe in 2 directions, right? So it makes basically a V, right? So I'm going to follow my little arrows and let my buildup start up there, come down to a point, pulling really quickly, and then go the opposite direction on top. So it's essentially you're piping 2 lines in a V shape, right? And because we're letting, sorry for knocking the stand, because we're letting the frosting build up on the ends, it's going to give us a lovely little heart, right? And a couple of people have asked about, frosting temperatures and stuff like that. So I actually measured it today just so I would know. But I like to keep our buttercream around 70 to 75 degrees. That means it's pliable and I can work with it, but it's not too loose or too sloppy that I have trouble keeping my shape or problems dealing with things, right? So I'm just going to go ahead and start, right? I've got my bag at a 45-degree angle. I'm going to touch the surface, squeeze, let my frosting balloon out, and then pull quickly back towards the surface, right? And so you can see I get a little teardrop shape. Now when I go the other direction, it becomes a heart, right? And if you need to, if it's easier, tilt what you're working on, whether it's a cake, cupcake, or just your sheet tray because you're practicing. If it's easier to kind of go in one orientation, right? Or at an angle, it'll help you a lot, right? And so once you've mastered this, it's a little easier, I find, with the 12 tip, just because it's big and open and easy and fat. You can practice it with different sizes. So it's the same thing if I want to do it with a number 3 tip, right? It's just a little smaller. So you can use this to make hearts of all sizes, right? So same thing, just go big balloon. So 2 teardrop shapes piped in a V gives you a lovely little line of hearts, right? Now, they don't have to be perfect, they don't have to be exact, but they're just a beautiful way to finish things off for Valentine's Day, and it's a good chance to practice those skills. And I like to do it on cupcakes because then if you mess up one, well, you can eat the evidence and nobody has to know, right? And so for my first design, I'm going to pipe a ruffle, and then I'm going to pipe a little heart and dip it in sugar. So I'm actually going to do this on the flower nail, and I have one that's been sitting in the fridge overnight so it's nice and firm and I can place it on the cupcake. So this one takes a little bit of planning, but is really, really simple. So I'm going to start with my plain cupcake. I have a number 125. This is a K, right? So it's a Korean tip, so it's a little thinner than the regular 125, but you can use it the same way, right? So I'm just going to start with the thin edge right at the outside of the cupcake paper and just go around and just kind of gently, in a nice little wave motion, let it go all the way around the outside, right? And this gives you kind of little delicate ruffles, right? They're nice, they're beautiful, they're kind of soft, right? And then you can pull it in just a little and do a second and third layer, right? And I like these because they're nice and thin and frilly and they look like fabric, and it doesn't give you a huge buildup of buttercream. So that gives you a nice ruffle on top of the cupcake and gives you a nice little void there in the center to place a heart. So I'm going to bring over some sparkle sugar, right? So this is just a nice light pink sparkle sugar, right? Sparkling sugar is just a little bit bigger than, say, regular granulated sugar. It comes in a lot of colors, and it also has usually a carnauba wax or confectioner glaze coating on it, and that will keep it, one, from dissolving when you put your cupcakes in the refrigerator, but also it gives it a little extra sparkle and shine. It's a little hard to pick up in this light, but it gives it a nice reflective quality and it looks really pretty. So I have my flower nail and I am going to pipe a heart, right? And since my buttercream is nice and firm, talked about temperature earlier, I can actually just press it really lightly in the top without really damaging that heart. And if I have any blank spots, just go in with a little spoon, make sure you get them, right? If your buttercream's a little soft, then just use the spoon. And then I'll just put this in the fridge on a tray, let it set up, and like magic, Tom is gonna grab me the one that I already have in the fridge, and I'm gonna place it on the center of my cupcake. So I'm just gonna get ready for it, right? So if you're using a type of buttercream like this that crusts over, you just want to make sure that you have something fresh there, right? And since this is nice and firm and hard, I can actually just handle it with my hands. And then you have a beautiful little ruffle, like fabric ruffle with a cute little sugared heart in the middle, and you have all edible decorations. You know, sometimes you make things out of gum paste, and yes, they're pretty and lovely, but it's something really hard and crunchy on top of your cupcake, and it's not always the most appetizing thing, right? So that's our first little design for today. The second one I'm gonna work on is a sugar-topped one. So I have some nice light pink buttercream. I am going to go ahead and flat ice a cupcake, and then I am going to roll it in sugar to give it a nice sparkle effect. And this one, yes, it will be a little extra sweet, but by flat icing it, right, so nice big amount of buttercream, we're not using as much buttercream as we would if we were piping it on. So I've just got it so that it's nice and flat on the surface. I'm going to take my spatula, run it around the edges, right? And if I want this top to be rounded and kind of follow the shape of the cupcake, you can kind of just keep going towards the middle. And that'll give you a more kind of gradual slope. And while it's still wet, right, we'll just take it and just gently, right, press into your sugar. So if you're doing this kind of stuff with either sugars or sprinkles, right, you can see it gives you a beautiful finish on the top. It's nice and kind of sparkly. It gives it a nice domed, flattened look. You just want to make sure that you have enough sugar that you're not accidentally pressing frosting to the bottom of whatever container that you're using. And you have enough in there to really get in all your cracks and make it nice and smooth. And that gives us a beautiful smooth surface that we can then pipe a little heart on, put on some decorations, write a little message to someone you love, whatever the case may be. So I'm just going to use this as a good chance to practice, right, piping my hearts. And then it's also a good opportunity to use up some cute decorations I have. So I have some kind of like oversized quins, right? These are just kind of like hard pressed sugar decorations. They're a little crunchy, but they're actually, unlike some things, edible. Oh, I'm getting down to the end of my bottle. So I'm getting down to the broken hearts. How sad. There we go. I'll use a pink one, right? But these are a good way to add a little size, a little variation, something pretty, right? Simple, modern, not too overdone, just enough. And then we'll do, let's see, some pretty ones. So I've got some buttercream in a big bag with a nice like 808 decorator tip, and I am just going to pipe a nice dot. Right, so you want to let it kind of come out and then just keep squeezing. Ooh. Right, Not the best one. Hold on. This is what happens when I preload my bags while we're getting ready. Sometimes it hiccups and burps a little. That's better, right? It's a little better if you can whip it right before you do it. You'll get a nice rounded dot. This one's got a few little air bubbles in it, but it's good enough. And I just thought this was a good way to do a cute little modern design. Add a few little sprinkles. You can always do things. It's a good chance to practice. Some lines. And also a cute little heart. Almost like little X's and O's. Right? And then I thought we'd do some cute little ruffles as well. So I'm going to take this last little cupcake I've got here and ice it with a pretty little salmon pink color and then put on some sweet little ruffles. Just press it out. Nice and flat. And I'm just going to change the tip on my kind of corally colored bag to 105. And I'm just going to go across. So same thing as the ruffles, but instead of going around in circles, I'm going to go across in lines. And I'm probably just going to end up doing about half of the cupcake. But if you just want a sweet little design, kind of reminds me of ruffles on the bottom of a skirt. Right? Just go halfway. And you can do things like use pearls. Or sprinkles. Or even pipe little hearts to trim the edge. I try to use as few of the kind of non-edible decorations as possible, but every once in a while I like to sneak them in. The pearls are technically edible, but they are super, super hard, so they're not my favorite. They look amazing, and if you're still having issues with consistency on size for things like piping dots, they're a nice way to finish things, but you do want to warn people before they eat that it's good to take those off, just because I always feel like I'm gonna crack a filling eating one, right? So just a nice little sweet way to finish things off. It gives us a kind of nice little quartet of cupcakes, right? So those are just a few little quick ideas for Valentine's Day, a great way to practice your piping skills with the hearts and some ruffles. If you enjoyed this video and you'd like more about the cake decorating materials and equipment we use, or just some inspirational videos about cake decorating itself, you can follow us on Insta or YouTube at Cake Decorating School. If you'd like to know more about yearly membership and what it entails, you can go to www.cakedecoratingschool.com for more information. And if you're interested in these products, you can check the links in the description.